Blog Talk Radio.
But all right, everybody, you're listening to ATL Prime Sports. Todd Corder here in Atlanta, JJ on the other side of the ATL, Mark Mancini in Los Angeles, and Wayne, our producer in Memphis, Tennessee. This is another edition of ATL Prime Sports. Our guest today is Dr. Sap, U of M football historian. You can catch him on Twitter at Dr. Sap 4UM. Dr. Sap, welcome to the show. Michigan State rivalry, as you know, a fantastic rivalry. I'm not sure that no two schools have ever really played in bigger games in three sports when you include basketball, baseball, and hockey. As you know, on the football side and the basketball side and the hockey side, it's just been great moments. One team's an underdog. It really doesn't matter how much of an underdog. The other one seems to come up and nip the other one in big games. Of course, Michigan State football is no different, which we're focusing on today. The game from Spartan Bob, where the clock operator left a second left, and then T.J. Duckett, a former Falcon here in Atlanta, caught a touchdown pass to beat Michigan. Michigan fans were screaming there was no time on the clock. And then from that point on, as you know, the NCAA keeps the game clock on the field. And also Charles Woodson's one-handed sideline interception in front of the Michigan State and Nick Saban bench at 97, propelling Michigan to the national title. So anyway, this game to me comes down to this, the Michigan run game versus the Michigan State defense. Xavier Henderson to me is a huge X factor with 113 tackles in 7 games. He's got 7 tackles for a loss, 2 sacks, and a forced interception. Can Michigan get balance on offense and run the football? Then when you flip the script, can Michigan's secondary stop the Michigan State wide receivers? That just seems to be that's going to be a huge challenge for Michigan, stopping Naylor and company. Your thoughts on this game, along with Jalen Reed, who each have 27 catches for 500-plus yards and 11 touchdowns in between them?
For sure. Before we talk about the present, let's talk a little bit about the past, right? These teams first met in 1898. This is an old rivalry, right? Fielding Yost in 1902 drops 119 points on them. 1902, right? 119 to zip. So you got that. Now, this is also the latest that they've played them, and they haven't scheduled this late in the season. The latest time was 1928. They played November 17th. So this is the first time. Not only are both teams ranked in the top 10 for the first time since 1964, but both teams are 7-0. So this is just amping it up even more. And then what you've got now with Mel Tucker, he's done a complete sort of 180 with this team. He's brought in, I think it's 41 or 42 either grad transfers or JUCO transfers. He's totally revamped the roster. I mean, there's talent there. There's talent on both sides of the ball. There's talent at the quarterback position. There's talent at the running back position. There's talent at the wideout position. There's talent at the defensive back position. And like you said, their D-line is pretty good too. I mean, this is going to be a tough game for Michigan. They will want to run, obviously, but they can't just they can't be one-dimensional. They've got to mix it up.
That's my concern for Michigan is they have got to be able to throw the football downfield like they did against Wisconsin, no doubt about it. And I mentioned the 2 wide receivers at Michigan State. It's going to be a handful for Michigan secondary, but also MSU running back Kenneth Walker III. He's one of the nation's top rushers with about 1,000 yards and 9 touchdowns, and this guy's a Heisman Trophy candidate. This will be the biggest test for the Michigan front 7 all season.
Yeah, and the defensive backs for Michigan. They haven't had a quarterback to throw deep against them consistently. So you're going to see now if the defensive backs have improved, and with this new defensive scheme where they don't play a lot of one-on-one like they used to under Don Brown, right? It's a lot of zone, a lot of rotational defense. So we'll see. But, I will tell you this, right? The history of the series, there's a lot of, trickeration, special team stuff going on here. I think, I tweeted out this morning, as early as 1941, Michigan ran a Statue of Liberty play, right? The same sort of play that Boise State burned Oklahoma in the 2007 Fiesta Bowl with. I mean, with Nick Saban even, right? When he was there,
right.
He ran a little, he trotted out Cedric Irvin on the field a little late to the huddle, right? Right off the sidelines, and they fake a field goal and they throw it to him, and he kind of walks into the end zone, But, hey, Michigan's kind of done the same thing, right? They've had a few fake punts, a few block punts. So, and, of course, Desmond Howard's, magnificent kickoff return in that 1990, clash. I mean, that was, to me, Todd, that's one of the best games, right? That was a back-and-forth game, and that's what I'm expecting this Saturday, a lot of back-and-forth.
Me too, and this is more to me of a hatred rival than even Michigan and Ohio State. You have the situation there 2 years ago in the pregame with the state players bothering Bush. He kicked up the field. You had Michigan trying to drive a stake in MSU's field. You had the little brother comment from Mike Hart back in Lloyd Carr's last year, I believe. You've had a lot of stuff between these two teams. They definitely don't like each other. I believe it's Michigan State's Super Bowl each and every year, and this would be the cherry on top if they beat Michigan. Michigan is MSU is 9-4 versus Michigan since 2008, but they have lost the last two in Spartan Stadium, and last season's game was in Michigan, the pandemic season, where MSU edged them in Ann Arbor, and this rivalry, as you know, anything can happen. I mean, I've mentioned some of the conflicting things at the end of games. Gosh, we could have another one this week.
Well, we could, right? But the winner of this game really sets themselves out well in the division, right? Sure, they still got to play Penn State and Ohio State, but nonetheless, you can almost eliminate this team, the loser, with this victory. So,
right.
We're going to see what happens. I mean, this is a big game, and it's the national game on Fox, right? This is huge. So this is great that it's getting this national exposure because, to your point, Todd, it's a great rivalry. It really is.
A lot of folks don't know, like I mentioned earlier, they've played big basketball games and big hockey games against each other. This, to me, is the best rivalry in the country when you include all three of those sports. And actually, if you didn't even include hockey, I mean, it's right up there even if you just include two. But if you include the third one, this, to me, is even better than Ohio State when you include all those sports.
Yeah, I don't know that any other rivalry school sort of disparages the other school by calling them a little brother. I don't know that
right.
Alabama does that to Auburn. I don't know that USC does that to UCLA. So that's what just adds, more gasoline to the fire.
Oh, there's no question about it. You mentioned the first time since '64, each team is in the top 10. Michigan's at 8. Michigan's at 6. Michigan State is 8, and that Michigan running game. I mean, with Blake Corum, he's got 700 plus yards, 10 touchdowns. Hassan Haskins, 600 plus yards and 10 touchdowns. And Michigan can run the football and control the clock. State would be in huge trouble. But you know what? What I'm really most impressed of about this, each quarterback hasn't really turned the football over. McNamara or McCarthy, or of course Michigan State's quarterback Thorne, who I know he had 2 turnovers against Indiana. But when I'm watching these clubs, they don't turn the ball over. So turnovers, to me, it probably will be the biggest issue in this game.
Yeah, because you can't give away field position like that, right? And it swings momentum hugely, and momentum is difficult to get back, especially now when you're, in Michigan's case, when you're on the road in a hostile stadium. Now, granted, it's only whatever it is, 77,000 seats there, but it's still a loud stadium. The fans are right on top of you. It's hype, man. It'll be amped up for sure.
Well, could you imagine if it was in Ann Arbor, we would have about 25,000 more fans. What's the ticket price going up there?
Oh, it's in the upwards of $300 already. already.
Wow. And it should get worse as the week goes. There's no question about it. This rivalry here to me, I mentioned they don't like each other, but you're going to see some extracurricular activities in this game. It always seems to do that. The team that can keep its cool and not get the penalties, that's another huge factor along with the turnovers.
Well, to your point, it is a street fight, and you're going to quickly see who is really ready to sort of, get down and dirty because, you hate to put it like that, but that's what it is. This is a nasty game. You're not gonna win this game by keeping your jersey clean type thing. You've got to get in there and you've got to, you got to trade some blows back and forth here. You got to stick it to them when you can, and that just adds to the intensity. I mean, that's what, as a fan, super exciting to watch that.
You're listening to Dr. Sap right here on ATL Prime Sports, University of Michigan football historian and blogger. Dr. Sap's JJ here. Good to hear from you again. Let's talk about that Paul Bunyan trophy and the history of that. What a cool trophy, how it started, where it is now. Give us the history of that trophy and just the trophy itself.
Yeah. Started by the governor of Michigan, I think, back in the mid-'50s, and it's a substantial trophy. That's a huge thing. It's made out of wood, right? The lumberjack, Paul Bunyan, right? The legend of Paul Bunyan. And he's basically straddling the state of Michigan, right? You got the two flags, the M and the S. And I got to credit Michigan State for sort of starting this tradition of parading the trophy around. That had never been done before until recently. And, as much as you hate to see that when you lose, but when you win, it just accentuates that feeling of victory even more. So, it's an ugly trophy, but it's a cool trophy. So, hopefully Michigan will be able to parade it around this Saturday.
You're damn right on that last comment there, I'll tell you that. I'm glad Michigan State did it, too. It added some spice to this rivalry, and it needed it, honestly. I don't like the extracurricular activities. I don't like the pregame stuff. I didn't like the stuff between Harbaugh and D'Antonio. Harbaugh did his best to try to calm that down, but D'Antonio, I think, thrived on it. It got his players going. But, Coach here for MSU, he seems to be the more calm type, and it seems to it's changed the demeanor for Michigan State a little bit to me. And I just wanted to hear your comment on that, and then I've got to let you go.
I will tell you this, right? The coaches react differently as soon as they lose to their rivals. When that happened to Bo in '69, that got his attention, right? When that happened to Jim in his first year, that got his attention. So, you know what? Mel Tucker hasn't experienced a loss to Michigan. So it'll be interesting to see if his attitude changed, right? He's already called it now the woodshed, right? Spartan Stadium is all of a sudden now the woodshed. So that's kind of cool. But, it'll be a different tune once you lose to your rival.
That's true. That's an excellent point. Well, the game is at the woodshed. It's at noon on Fox, Eastern Standard Time. Check it out. It is for the Paul Bunyan Trophy. And Dr. Sap, thank you so much for calling in today. I really appreciate it. Look forward to talking to you down the road, sir.
Sounds good, guys. Be good. Go Blue.
Be good. You too. All right, that's Dr. Sap here on ATL Prime Sports. You can reach him on Twitter at Dr. Sap for U of M. You can reach all of us at ATL Prime Sports. You can reach myself at Corder Todd, JJ at JJ Get You One, Wayne at RWI Jr., Mark at Mancini Sports. I wanted to wait and do this part of the show. At the midpoint of the show, I wanted also to let you know you can catch us on all of us on Twitter. You can ask any questions. Go to YouTube, subscribe, and like the show. All right, now it's time for the main event here, Atlanta fans. It is the World Series. To me, this is a spectacular story. It goes from Dusty Baker's roots. Very special to him to go back to Atlanta in '96, to go back now as Joe Torre did in 1996 with the Yankees. You got Alvarez and Rosario. They're so hot. Charlie Morton's going to start Game 1 against his former team. Valdez is going to get the start for Houston in Game 1. Soler, can Atlanta use his power at DH? I mean, the storylines here are just fantastic. First time Houston versus Atlanta in October, even though Houston's been in the NL in 51 years, of course, from 97 to 05. The 5 NLDS battles, Atlanta won the first 3, Houston the last 2. Houston been in the AL since 2013. And you know what, JJ, this is really cool. I saved the best for last, my friend. The first time Houston came to Atlanta in 1966, they lost on whose walk-off? Who do you think hit the walk-off in 96 for Atlanta? You've got to know this against Houston.
That'd be... Man, was it McGriff?
No, 1966, not 1996.
Oh,
I apologize. I tricked
96,
you. I did it on purpose. 1966 when they first met. I didn't mean 96. I screwed up. Who would have been?
You said 96. Now you got me thinking.
I know I did. As soon as I did, I was an idiot. It's 66. Who was it?
It's got to be Hammer and Hank.
It is Henry Aaron. You know, let me tell you, who hasn't Henry Aaron hit a walk-off against? He's hitting a walk-off now in heaven. So, to me, the best baseball player of all time, Hank Aaron. So the first time they met, when Houston came here, Henry Aaron beat him on a walk-off in 1966. I'm sorry about that. Oh, JJ, I can still hear your daughter crying about the Pumpkins experience that you and your family had during the weekend. Hopefully she's not crying anymore. I saw that on social media and I rolled. But we're going to see who's crying at the end of this series because, JJ, this means so much to Houston. Think about it. This means so much. This is their third appearance in 5 years. I mentioned you the storylines. Where do you think the biggest edge and the key to the series is?
Boy, there's a lot of keys here in this series, but to me it's going to be who's got the better bullpen.
Biggest one.
Well, bullpen. Who's got the better bullpen? Because 54% of all innings pitched this postseason has been by relievers. The Braves lefties, Minter, Matzik, and Smith have allowed only 2 runs in 24.2 innings pitched. Tack on 35 Ks there, and no home runs. That's going to be your key. It's going to be a battle of who's got the better bullpen. Right now, I got to lean towards the Atlanta Braves.
Yeah, I agree. In terms of the biggest key, do you have another one?
Absolutely.
What's your second one?
Look, here's another thing. The Braves are the 4th team to reach the World Series after having a losing record in the middle of the season. The other teams to do it, the 91 Braves, the 73 Mets, the 64 Cardinals. And here's another key in this game. Call me nuts, but I think it's cool that there's a snicker on each side. So either way, the family's going to hoist a World Series trophy. I think that's cool. I think that puts a lot of cool, calm, and collectedness, and honestly, Brian Snicker and the way he'll manage simply because of that reason. And I think that's another edge to the Braves. Call me nuts. It's a weird key to the game, but I do think that the family trophy going somewhere makes a difference in the way Snicker manages the game. He manages less tense, makes the right calls. Maybe that's a big key. Maybe it isn't, but I'm calling it. It's a weird one.
You know, it's funny, JJ, hang on, Mark, 1 second. I'm glad you mentioned that because Baker has crossed paths with Snicker, too. So between Baker and Snicker's son, who's the batting coach for Houston, what are they going to be thinking? What's Dad thinking? And Snicker's going to go, what's my son thinking? And Dusty's thinking. So this is going to be one hell of a chess matchup, and I'm glad you brought that up. Mark, Atlanta comes off the NLCS upset of Los Angeles, beating them 4-2. What's the mood out there in Los Angeles? Because this club was supposed to go all the way. It did get hit with the injury bug. They couldn't go with the 4-man rotation. They can only go with 3 because of Kershaw. And what is the mood out there? Because this is a proud franchise. The last 10 years it's been to the World Series 3 times. It won it last year. I know it was a 60-game season, but they went through 4 rounds of the playoffs just like everybody else. What's the mood out there? Because it's got to be disappointment.
Well, it's a ghost town. I mean, there's crickets. I mean, the groom has left the bride at the altar again. I mean, what else do you want me to tell you? I mean, this is an embarrassment, if you ask me. I mean, 9 straight playoff appearances, 8 division titles, 6 National League championships, 3 World Series, 1 playing 10 games. I mean, what more do you want? Let's call a spade here. I mean, you know, it's Tinseltown. It's Hollywood. I mean, you know, it's the movie industry. I mean, I don't respect anything in this town except the Lakers. I mean, let's be real. I mean, the Rams are playing a Mickey Mouse schedule, and they're selling Super Bowl tickets after next week when they'll be 7-1 beating the Texans. But I mean, the Dodgers are a disappointment. I mean, this is an analytic guy that's running the front office, but yet you're playing bullpen games. I mean, come on. I mean, what do we? I mean, the excuses keep coming. John Wooden once said, you know, make adjustments. They can't make adjustments in Los Angeles. They're not built for the playoffs and World Series. They're built for the regular season.
May I ask you this, Mark? Maybe let me ask you this. Speaking of adjustments, where was David Price this series, and why didn't they pitch him?
I have no idea. I mean, look at it. You know, Dave Roberts takes everything from the front office. They tell him when to go to the bathroom, I guess. I don't know. I mean, look at around. This is a team that is, you know, is sitting with me in Pittsburgh right now. I mean, basically. They're no better. Nobody remembers who won 106 games. They're only going to remember who won the World Series this year. So let's not kid ourselves.
You know what, though? It's a great achievement winning 106 games. They beat a 117 team in their division to get to face Atlanta. You know, they've got, I mean, there were some amazing achievements here. I know a long loss along the way. They didn't get to the finals, so everybody's going to kill them for it. But now they have important upcoming free agents decisions. You have Kershaw. You have Max Scherzer. I mean, you've got Corey Seager. You know, there's some big decisions for the Dodgers. Kenley Jansen. I mean, holy smokes. You're going to see some change, even though in Los Angeles next year. How many of those guys
3 World Series. Let's face the facts here. I mean, and nobody talks about this, and there could have been a 4th if Atlanta wins this and they won last Thursday. You had the Nationals celebrate on their field. You had the Red Sox and the Astros. I mean, realistically, you know, let's look at it for what it really is. They're just not a very good postseason team, and I don't know what happens.
Well,
I mean,
look,
you can bring
we've been to the World Series 3 times in 9 years. That's very difficult to do. JJ, you know that being here in Atlanta with that 14-year run where Atlanta went to the World Series 5 times, lost 4. I see a lot of similarities in terms of the 90s achievements from Atlanta.
You're going to compare the Dodger pitching staff with Glavine, Maddox, Smoltz, and all those guys?
Right. It's the same scenario. It really is. 3-9 or 5-14. I think the similarities are remarkable. Hang on, Mark. Let me go to JJ. Back to this matchup. To me, if you ask me, the key to me is Atlanta's starting pitching. And the reason is because they've had the best starting pitching of the final 4 teams that were in it. And to me, if their rotation can pitch the best and stay in the 3s and do it one more time, they've got an excellent shot to win it all.
You're right about that. Look, the Braves front 3, Anderson, Morton, Fried, they're going to have to neutralize an extremely hot offense. Look, in 10 games, the Astros have gotten it done. 67 runs this postseason. I thought that was a misprint. That's right, folks. 67 runs in 10 games. That's no joke. 6 of their 7 wins by 5+ runs. So they have dominated. Look, in 45 of those runs, this is the most impressive stat the Astros have to me. 45 of those runs, Todd, Mark, Wayne, 2 outs. 45 runs on 2 outs, folks. That's an incredible stat. The Braves are going to have to get ahead in the count, get them down, and with 2 outs, they better not give up a single, and they cannot walk. Crucial 2-out walks are will kill you against this Astros team. You got to get out of the innings. You're right about that, TC. Braves need to continue what they've done. Pitch well.
JJ, real quick, we all know about Eddie Rosario and the 14 hits and the NLCS and all that, and that's a great story, and that has been publicized to death. But Tyler Matzek, to me, pitched the inning of his life, and he may be one of the best hidden gems in baseball right now. This guy was out of the game a few years ago, and now he's back in the spotlight, and he came in and saved the Braves in Game 6. And you know what? Also, number 2, Atlanta's going to need Luke Jackson in the series, and if he can get it together, there's another huge X factor.
You're right about that. Luke Jackson gave up a couple long balls, had a bad inning, erased by Matzek. Call him the eraser like Arnold Schwarzenegger in the 90s, folks. This guy had a taste of the yips, battled back through organization. He even had a time in the minors with the Atlanta Braves, really got his stuff together, worked hard, overcame adversity. This is the best story in the playoffs. Tyler Matzek could have been the MVP for the Atlanta Braves simply because of his Game 6 performance. TC, I'm right there with you.
I'm going to flip back to the starting pitching here. Either team doesn't have a 4-starter, and Houston, assuming McCullers can't go, they don't have one neither. Also Houston doesn't have they don't have Zach Greinke to he's not there neither.
Correct.
At 100%, that hurts. But to me, Game 1 for Houston, it's a must get with Valdez on the mound. If he pitches like he did against Boston, that would set the tone for Houston. But if Atlanta can take one game out of that bandbox and come back with 3 at home, they could steal this thing. Houston's a favorite because of their lineup, because of the runs scored. I think the bullpen between this team are pretty even-steven. But to me, it's going to come down to starting pitching. Who can pitch the most innings from their starter, effective quality innings, JJ, is going to win this series.
You're correct. I go back to the stat I mentioned earlier about the Braves bullpen and in the postseason in general. Remember, folks, 54% of all innings pitched have been bullpen. A lot of that, I think like 57% of the time, the Astros have gone to the bullpen. Why? Because their starting pitchers didn't do that great in the first 2 series. Relievers outpitched the starters. So that's going to be a key. How tired are the Astros front-end guys? How will Dusty Baker manage that? And again, how will Brian Snitker manage his guys? Coming 1, 2, 3, it looks like it's going to be Morton, Fried, Anderson, and it looks like it would be pretty much on 6 days of rest, 4 days of rest, and 5 days of rest, respectively.
That's correct. That's correct, JJ. That's a good point. Mark, I'm going to get all your predictions from you real quick. We got less than 2 minutes to go. Mark, you picked the Atlanta to beat the Dodgers. What do you see this series and why? Very quickly, 25 seconds.
Key is A.J. Minter and Matzek there. I like those. That's how you beat the Dodgers.
Yep.
You bust them inside with left-handed pitching, and I think Atlanta's going to win this series in 6 games in that title. I'm looking at my book right now by Clayton Trutor. Loserville. It's going to be Winningville in Atlanta, man.
They can erase that. You know what, JJ, the Braves want to change the narrative. Freddie Freeman said it. Do they do it very quickly?
I think they can get it done. I think it'll go 7 games. I'm going with the Braves in 7. They get it off their chest.
I don't know if they can win Game 7 in that bandbox, Wayne. What do you have? Who do you have winning it?
I have Atlanta winning it in 4 games to stick it to the MLB for removing the All-Star game from Atlanta.
I'm not getting into politics on this show, but I'm glad you made your prediction. To me, if Atlanta's going to win it in 6, they have to win it in 6. If it goes to 7 games, Houston will win it in that bandbox. I'm going to kind of take it right there. I think Houston will win the series in 7, but if it only goes 6, I've got Atlanta. Guys, thanks a lot. I really appreciate it today. It's been a fantastic show, and we'll have another show here later on this week. Thanks to listening. We'll be here at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time live on Blog Talk Radio, 1-347-205-9631. Till next Monday, talk to you then.